a lot of the conversation we're having about depression now, where it's all about, I have a chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
so this is what happens to me, is better than the conversation that was happening where we're saying you're lazy and you're broken. So I'd much rather have someone say, this isn't your fault. You caught it like a sickness, like a flu. The truth is, it's not a flu though, and it's really important to clarify when I'm saying it's not something that you catch, as in it's out of your control. I have a chemical imbalance. That's something about me that's going to be true forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't mean that you're choosing the experience of having depression, because
Right.
it's not a choice.
Right.
It is your body's reaction. And
Right.
a lot of the structures that provide the stress on our systems are out of our control.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And like the kind of the biggest flaw with Western psychotherapy is that everything is oriented towards you. It's your fault.
yeah,
It's your
exactly.
problem. Something is
Yeah.
wrong with you,
Mhm.
not the system is
Yeah.
impossible.
Yeah.
The system is impossible. And because the system is impossible, they've come up with all of these other side things to alter the
Yeah.
human experience so that you can become possible for the system. But it's like the problem. There is no problem.
The Always Be podcast.
Hello, everyone. And welcome back to the Always Be podcast. If you are watching, you can see that Brenna and I are now in the same location.
You see my hand? Hi.
We're sitting on the same couch in the same room
We're in Hawaii. We're together.
together.
It's so exciting. Avery's visiting me.
Yeah. So
And it's been an explosion ever since you got here.
I know we were saying that when we get together, it sort of feels like a psychedelic experience just being together.
Yeah. Yeah. I felt high last night. Like,
Yeah.
legit high. And I'm not doing anything, any substances at all. Like, totally sobriety life. And I was like, had the munchies. This is
Yeah.
Avery witnessed it, but now you all get to hear how I was like having the munchies. And I was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
I felt like I got stoned.
Yeah, there was so much. There's been a lot of energetic exchange and just like, yeah, we'll get into it. But
Yes. Sorry.
so
Welcome back.
today,
Podcast.
welcome back. Today's a very exciting day because we are going to start a different series,
Yeah. I'm stoked.
where we give you the transpersonal view or perspective of classic DSM diagnoses. And what are we calling the
Oh, the series?
the series?
I don't know. We didn't make up a decision.
We'll figure that out and then you'll know.
Because it will be the title of this episode.
Yeah. Let's do a vibe check.
Vibe check. Does that mean I get to go first?
You go.
Okay. What is the vibe? Okay, what's the vibe? Let me just I feel well, Avery's been with me, so but I am feeling way more tired mentally, emotionally, and spiritually than I think I should feel. I've been having, my vibe is that I like this morning we both decided not to go to CrossFit, and it was the right choice, but I was like, why do I not have any energy? It's because we've just been explosion of downloads and conversations and like moving things.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it feels. So I just feel a little raw and a little drained, and kind of in a good way though. I've come to really appreciate these kind of states of being where I feel a little bit existentially what?
Mm-hmm.
That's how it feels.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a little, if like, it's not pleasant, but I'm happy about it.
Yeah. Pleasant. but I'm happy about it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's really like I really think it's interesting that like to know other people who can differentiate like pain and pleasure from like happiness or rightness and stuff like that. Doesn't feel good, but it's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel similarly tired, but also kind of recharged. Well, part of why I'm here is sort of to try and rest and recharge. Because I've just been in a really, really drained, exhausted, burnt out place. Super burnt out. And sort of unable to like recognize that. So I do think I am recharging, especially being surrounded by so much of the natural world, the soundscape of the natural world. It's fit and just the color, everything. It's just very. Today we went on a hike to a beautiful valley. What's it called?
Pololu.
Lulu. Yeah, and it was like entering a womb.
It was
Womb has been the theme.
It's been a womb theme.
So
Yeah. That makes sense. A lot of things are like kind of getting ready to be born, it feels like.
yeah,
It honestly feels like birth canal. Like there's like womb, but it really feels like birth canal. Like it's like pressure and it like it just feels like there's like contractions. Like it's like pushing you. So then you're kind of like relaxed for a little bit and then it's just
yeah. True. True. I don't like it. I don't want to stay in the
no,
womb.
I'm
I'm
like
like the baby that's like trying to stay in the womb.
yeah. And it's funny
Not
because
ready.
I raced out of the womb with my mom. I came 6 weeks early.
Oh my gosh.
It's funny.
There's geckos here, and I've been naming them. And there's one gecko over there. Her name is Shisandra, and she might pop on the screen and say hi to us.
That'd be very exciting.
So
Okay, that's the vibe.
that's the vibe.
The vibe, yeah.
So we listened to a
Yeah.
podcast episode from the Emerald Podcast by Joshua Schrei. Schrei. I
I
really don't
feel
know
bad.
how to pronounce his last name.
Schrei.
Yeah.
Let
Schrei.
us know how you
Schrei.
think we should pronounce that.
Yeah.
He just calls himself Josh, so we'll just
Josh.
call him Josh.
Josh.
We're like, introduce yourself. And he's like, hey, it's Josh.
Yeah. So this episode was called "The Revolution Will Not Be Psychologized," and it kind of blew us apart in like a very like you were saying. This is like a sort of like a psychedelic experience.
Yeah.
Very existential, like very
Yeah.
what how do you hear that and then stay in the reality that you
Stay in the reality. Yeah, where
understand.
it's been interesting because I finally sometimes Avery says things a couple times and I feel like I place my own filter over what she's saying, but I finally understood when you're like, I don't even know how to be a therapist right now or a counselor or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how to be a counselor right now. And I was like, oh, in my head, I'm like, oh, you're just overthinking it a little bit. But I'm like, no, no, no. The structure on which this podcast especially did it, but it's like the structure on which we've based our whole foundational understanding of what we're looking for in this
Mental
life.
health.
Oh, yeah, what mental health is and where we're going and where we should be trying to get to is crumbling. And and so that podcast it's just a really good podcast. 10 out of 10. We only listened to the first part even.
We've only listened to the first part and it was a lot to get through. It was a lot to receive.
It was
like
a lot.
Brenna and I are kind of in this space of like we know that we are on the right mission, but everything seems to be disagreeing with us. We're like coming up with against a lot of resistance. So when we find other people who are saying the same thing, like chanting the same song, kind of, it's like, okay, Yes.
I'm not crazy.
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah.
We are doing this thing that makes sense. And
Yeah.
it was really validating to hear from him.
Really validating.
So basically the episode is really just about how psychology, language, and the psychologization of whatever, like pathologizing mental health and
Yeah.
wellness, and the language has just infiltrated everything in society,
Yeah.
all wellness spaces, all everything.
Yeah.
And the inherent issues with that,
Yeah.
obviously, like trying to decolonize
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
everything,
I know.
everything, but our education, our roles, our understanding. So it felt really actually pretty aligned with this series, which is
Yes.
to like
Yeah.
look at regular DSM diagnoses and then talk about them from a transpersonal perspective.
Yeah. About what is happening, if what could be happening or is happening in other from another lens through on
Yeah.
different dimensions
Yeah.
that we're seeing, the psychology world is putting it in this bubble, in this frame. And
Yeah.
yeah, and then this that was what we had been wanting to do this series, and then this podcast really just blew it all out.
Yeah. So we're going to attempt to try to talk about this using as little language, as little like psychology
Yeah,
language that we can. But
yeah,
now we're realizing just how deeply
ingrained it all is. Just
in our perspective.
yeah, and I think that so what we're going to talk about today is the series is going to be different diagnoses, but today we want to do anxiety and depression. And that felt like a pretty standard way to start since I
Mm-hmm.
feel like those diagnoses, first of all, they're talked about in the world a lot. There's a lot of people who have an understanding of anxiety and depression, and they also might not have a total like have an understanding, but they still talk about it in a certain way. It's just big in the zeitgeist. And then um I guess that was the end of the sentence.
Also, they're like the most
Very,
diagnosed,
yeah, I like
highly diagnosed.
I'm sure they are probably the most, but I don't have the stats on me right now to figure out what people are most likely,
I'm
most often
pretty
diagnosed
sure they're
with.
highly diagnosed. I think
Yeah,
they're the two most
yeah,
diagnosed and prescribed and treated.
and prescribed and treated
Yeah.
antidepressants and
Anti-anxieties.
anxiety. Yeah,
Big pharma makes a lot of money.
yeah, pharma's bad.
PSA,
That's gonna
PSA.
be a that's gonna be a 2-minute podcast. It's gonna be like big pharma is evil. The end. No, it's nuanced though, because
It's
we're talking about
nuanced.
antidepressants today.
Yeah. We're going to read the symptoms
Yeah.
of depression, anxiety, what makes up a diagnosis from
The DSM.
Statistical Manual, whatever.
Yeah.
Diagnostic Statistical.
Diagnostic and Statistical Manual, Mental Disorders. Blah, blah. Yeah. So whenever he was saying we're trying not to use psychology language, it's like yes and because we're going to talk about the clinical frame first, just to be like this is generally what people talk about, and then this is how we want to think about it. Okay. Well, I'm going to read major depressive disorder because that is basically what a lot of people get diagnosed with. You can just read the criteria.
Yeah.
Okay. You need 5 of these things to be present. And this is okay for everyone who's never read the DSM. I'm just going to read this first little part just so you understand what it's like to be a freaking therapist. Okay. To be doing clinical work. It's so annoying. Okay, 5 or more of the following symptoms have been present during the same 2-week period and represent a change from previous functioning. At least one of symptoms is either depressed mood or loss of interest and pleasure. Right? So it's basically saying you need 5 of these 9. The first one is depressed mood. I don't need to read every single thing, right?
Read the 9.
Yeah, but not everything in that one.
Nope.
2 is marked
diminished interest or pleasure in activities. 3 is weight loss or weight gain related to your physical body. 4 is insomnia or hypersomnia, means sleeping too much. 5 is psychomotor, your like physical agitation or retardation. So it could either moving too much or not enough. Fatigue or loss of energy nearly every day. Feelings of worthlessness or excessive guilt, diminished ability to think, or recurrent thoughts of death or recurrent suicidal ideation. And they have to pretty much every single diagnosis has to, like the other two things are like must cause distress or impairment. This is actually something we should talk about. Look, it can only be diagnosed if it causes significant stress or impairment in social, occupational, or important areas of functioning.
Stop.
That's like a legit.
I forget that that's like
Stop.
such a thing that's in every single diagnosis.
Social, occupational. This is
That's what it says.
it's now it's time. This so here's what I have to say.
So
Everything is in relationship to the system it is a part of. So a diagnosis is there's only something wrong with you in relationship to normalcy.
Yeah.
And how normalcy is defined is really around the productivity of capitalism.
Yeah.
It's capitalism. So it's like it's not just, oh, if something happens to you and you have a normal human response where you may be overwhelmed or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not about that. It's about, are you going to be able to show up for work?
Yes. Yeah. So what's happening?
Social, occupational functioning.
This is something that Josh was saying. So he's saying that like when we talk about wellness, what it feels like it's synonymous with in terms of how we talk about it is being normal.
Yep.
And I hear that a lot from clients about, is this normal? Do I feel normal?
I just want to feel normal.
I want to be normal, blah, blah, blah. And what the word, and so normal is such a problematic concept because it could be either an average, like you were saying, here's the box that's kind of the average of all the things, but nobody is actually that person. It's the way they say like average is like 2.5 kids. Nobody has 2.5 kids.
Right.
Obviously, nobody has 2.5 kids. Right. Because there's no such thing as a 0.5 kid. That's the same thing. Yes. So it's like it's either average or it is a socially constructed way of being that culturally and communally, depending, you could say it's created communally and culturally, or you could say it's created hierarchically from the above.
Yeah.
Ideal state of being, ideal state of consciousness, ideal way of being, essentially. And that is just an inherently problematic concept because either A, it's not up to you, it's up to the collective, or B, it's not up to you at all. It's told by, it's like created for you. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, you don't, so then there's just somebody else is saying what's normal. Yeah. And it's just really important to start to notice how just in our minds we make certain things around normal and not normal. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. I think that we're two people who accept a lot of abnormal behaviors, abnormal opinions, abnormal views. That's why we like transpersonal psychology. Like I love to talk about, like I'm like I'll talk about dimensions. I'll talk about the multiverse and aliens or spirits or fairies, right? Like there's a part if someone's like, "Oh yeah, I saw a fairy." I'm like, "Great." Mm-hmm. But that could definitely fall under the realm of not normal. And or not healthy.
Right. Well,
and or mental illness.
Yeah, to depend like based off of our system of mental health.
Yeah.
In America.
Yes.
Western psychotherapy.
Which
is like, I don't know if we've mentioned this before, but in grad school, Brenna and I did a personality assessment test, personality disorder assessment test. And she was giving me the assessment. We were doing a class on assessments, whatever.
You're right.
And I was like 1 or 2 things away from being diagnosed with
schizotypal.
schizoaffective disorder.
It was a personality disorder, so it was like literally schizotypal. I think it's schizotypal, whatever.
I don't know,
I don't
but
know
it
how to
was
say it.
because I had spiritual beliefs.
Yeah, it was like, do we believe that forces be
Do
under
you think
control
God
affecting your
talks
life?
to you?
Yeah. Do you feel like
It was
things are
all about,
signs and
yeah.
messages?
Do you think that you have some inherent
Inherent power over that was
I was
totally
like, yeah, like a 1,000,000%.
Yeah.
So close. I was so close
Yeah.
to being whatever.
I don't know. I'm sorry, I forget what it's called, but yeah,
Yeah,
it was
schizoaffective,
it was some
schizotypical, whatever.
Yeah.
Similar.
I
to
know how to spell it,
schizophrenia.
but I don't think I know how to say it.
Yeah. So anyway, this guy from this podcast, Josh, also talks about that, which is spirit, devotion to spirit, devotion to God.
He says anima though, which
Anima,
I really like, and I might
breath
just steal from
of
him.
life.
The breath of life.
Anima, the breath of life.
The breath of life.
Yeah. So, okay, so back to depression.
Okay. Yeah. So
How do we view it from a transpersonal
wait,
lens?
I feel like maybe we need a little bit more conversation about what people usually feel like depression is.
Yeah, so depression can feel like I'm too tired to do anything.
Yeah.
I don't have
Hopelessness.
motivation. I don't have energy.
Yeah.
Can't get started.
Yeah.
Because either there's too many thoughts and I can't make a decision, or there's not enough thoughts to make a decision.
Yeah. Just tired. A lot of tiredness. I know some young people, like clients I've had, have misunderstood depression as being sadness based.
Yeah.
And I think most people, I mean, we both had experience with depression. So it's like, I think most people get now that it's not that. And
Yeah.
it's like much more numb, much more absence of feeling than it is orientation around a certain feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
yes.
Yeah.
And the important thing that we were talking about this morning was that pathologies, diagnoses aren't feelings.
Pathologies aren't feelings.
So people are like, I feel depressed.
It's not a feeling.
Yeah, like the first thing was depressed mood.
Depressed
like,
mood. Well, this is actually something that I was just thinking about today because it's an Omni thing. The difference between this is at least something Lisa talks a lot about. We love Lisa. The difference between an emotion, a feeling, and a mood.
Yeah.
And I'll just say it because I think it's awesome and I'm glad I know it. So emotions are like the core somatic experiences to the world. So emotions, base level.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 6, like fear, joy, anger, sadness, like grief. You might be even less. Like I don't even know. I'm trying to think of what else there is.
Fear, joy, anger, sadness, grief.
Yes, grief was sort of with sadness.
Not all of it.
Grief's the emotions.
Happy, sad, angry.
Basic. Your basic inside out.
Yes.
Disgust. Yeah, that's your basic inside out. So your emotions are like that. And then feelings are emotions with story. So once you have an emotion, then your brain colors it in some type of way, which is why you can feel more, this like feelings are a bit more diverse. Like,
because the stories
I'm just thinking about like, so feelings are usually bigger words. I'm just trying to think like delight or,
right.
Confusion, yeah. Or I'm just like frustration, disappointment. Yeah. So it's like disappointment is kind of like sadness and anger with the story about something that you wanted, and I'm disappointed in you. So there's like there's something there. Yeah. So that's feelings, and then mood is like when the story you're creating about the feeling goes for a long time. So then it becomes like a fixed state.
Yeah.
And you're just like, instead of moving with the emotion, now it's kind of, now it's been created into a mood. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Depressed mood is interesting though, because I don't think of depression as being like an emotional state. So like, it doesn't feel
Yeah.
like a mood. It more feels like I was saying this to Avery earlier.
Mhm.
Now we're just going into what we think about depression.
Yeah, let's go.
Like that depression is not a feeling. It is a somatic reaction to overwhelm.
Mhm. Stress has
Any kinds of stress.
built up
And
so much that it puts your system into shutdown. Then you're
yeah,
shut down.
yeah.
Shut
It
down.
is a I think depression, or like not I think, but well, yeah, it is what I think, I guess. Depression is a mechanism that our body has to close a lot of the access points and portals and things that we usually have open to be in communication with the world. It's like, nope,
Mhm.
I'm closed for fucking business.
Yeah. Too much. I need to rest.
Too much. I need to rest.
I was explaining that when I get into depressive episodes, which would be like a mood, like, like an
Yeah.
extended period of time, usually it's because something has been so activating or so triggering, and there's no time or space around, so I shut down.
Yeah.
And it takes a long time for me to crawl back out to get to realize what it was. So for a long
Mm,
time in the depression, I don't know why.
yeah.
I am here. I'm just here. So that's why I feel like a lot of people talk about depression like I can't control it. I
Yeah.
can't control it. I have depression.
Yeah.
It's just how it's like part of me.
Yeah.
When I can speak for myself, it's really what triggers depressive episodes is too much shock, like too much a remembering of repressed emotion and trauma or
Yeah.
memory that has all this other stuff that then puts my system into shock.
Mhm.
Then I shut down.
Yeah.
Then I'm like,
Yeah, like if you're like one of the things that psychotherapy does talk about is like the polyvagal ladder. You'll see like an illustration where at the top of the ladder it's like in a green zone and green is regulated,
yeah,
and then it climbs down into yellow zone, and yellow zone is sort of like more frantic, more energy swirling, but they I guess I say energy. Anxiety is here, or panic or overwhelm and stress. And then you climb down lower, like once you as you're just if you're not working yourself back up to regulation, you keep going into numb, shutdown, depression area. And I've also seen it with this curve where you get hyper aroused. And if you spend too much time outside of your window, then you just go, phoom, then it shuts down.
mm-hmm,
And that's like what you're saying, where it's like it's out of your control
mm-hmm,
because you're not, we don't know what moment our body's finally going to say no more.
yes,
We're
and it's not a
operating at this level and we're like,
yeah,
okay, I can keep going. We've been talking about this. We're like, I can keep going. I have enough energy for this. Then you hit the bottom of the barrel and suddenly it's like, "Burp,"
yeah,
you're done.
yeah,
Yeah.
because your thought process is not the same thing as your nervous system, your physical system. So sometimes
Yes.
your body will make a decision for you
Yeah.
when you're, which is kind of what we were talking about before, which is like the thought of safety, the fear of danger, the
Yeah.
threat of danger, or the feeling of safety. So often we are not, our lives are not actually in threat.
Yeah.
We just perceive threat
Yeah.
completely differently.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with shutdown, the body shutdown in depression. It'll just be a decision our body makes for us.
Hmm.
And then to be experiencing that for me, it's like I don't know why. That's why it feels out of control.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, do, life's all good. And then all of a sudden, it doesn't really happen like that.
Yeah.
Once I crawl out of the depression, I can see the chain reaction. Oh, this happened.
Yeah.
And that led to that, led to that. It actually has been a week of
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. Well, and then I think the other thing to say about this, if we're thinking systems, so many people have so much this our society puts a lot of pressure on people.
Yeah.
So what happens is, I want to validate the experience of being in a shutdown. First of all, feeling a lot of shame because we don't give very many people space to rest. So a lot of times when you're in a depressive episode, you're not actively resting. Like I know for me, it's always like I want to rest, but I'm kind of like forcing myself to do things I don't want to do, or just being like, or feeling guilt. Like I'm like, all I want to do is watch TV today, but the entire time I'm watching TV, I'm like, I hate myself.
Shame.
I am so
Yeah.
and that's not rest. Then your brain's going, the shame is moving, and it's not rest. There's
Right.
no peace
Yeah.
in that experience. So first of
Yeah.
all, you're not getting the rest you need, and you're looking back at the life that you know you will have to return to, and all of the painful components that are out of your control, and you're like, there's no fucking way I'm going back there. Like that's how suicidality can so easily manifest. You're like,
Right.
I can't go that direction,
Yeah.
so I've got to go this direction.
Right.
And I just want to validate that because it's real. And there's just so many structures in place. So and I think when we're talking about looking at diagnoses from different perspectives, it's like a lot of things about depression. A lot of the conversation we're having about depression now, where it's all about I have a chemical imbalance,
Yeah.
so this is what happens to me, is better than the conversation that was happening where we're saying you're lazy and you're broken. So I'd much rather have someone say this isn't your fault. You caught it like a sickness, like a flu. The truth is, it's not a flu, though, and it's really important to clarify when I'm saying it's not something that you catch, as in it's out of your control. I have a chemical imbalance. That's something about me that's going to be true forever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it doesn't mean that you're choosing the experience of having depression because
Right.
it's not a choice.
Right.
It is your body's reaction.
Right.
And a lot of the structures that provide the stress on our systems are out of our control.
Right.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
So,
And like the kind of the biggest flaw with Western psychotherapy is that everything is oriented towards you. It's your fault. It's your
exactly.
problem. Something is wrong with you, not the system is
Yeah.
impossible. The system is impossible. And because the system is impossible, they've come up with all of these other side things to alter the
Yeah.
human experience so that you can become possible for the system. But it's like the problem. There is no problem.
Yeah. This is what I realized last night listening to the podcast. I was thinking about how pharmaceuticals create problems like restless leg syndrome so that they can sell medication. But it's every single problem they're medicating was created by them.
Yes.
And every, like, we were like, I mean, old fucking stance, but the entire mental health industrial complex has created the problem of mental illness in order to be able to treat it to make money.
There is something
That is
wrong
huge.
with you.
Yes.
There is something wrong with you. And you want to feel better and you want to get better. So take this pill
Or treatment.
or do this treatment.
This is why we've been
for
feeling,
wellness.
This is why we've been feeling so can't function as a counselor because it's like someone shows up, nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong.
Yeah.
You're good. The problem is that you think there's a problem.
Right.
Not a
the
problem.
problem is that you have to live within the system. And the system makes you think you have a problem.
The system makes you think you have a problem.
And
it's hard because there is also a lot of pain. Pain is hard. And if you're in pain, you want the pain to
go away.
Yeah. And if there's structures around that are just putting you in pain all the time, it's like, let's adjust.
Yeah.
And sometimes different people have different levels of empowerment in terms of their ability to
100%.
move away from things that are causing them pain or harm.
Yeah.
And that is messed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the idea that someone's inability to energetically process through the complexities and dynamics and isolation and pain of like late stage capitalism is silly. If you're having a hard time, then that's that's good on you. You like
Yes.
yeah.
It's the same thing that's being said right now with the genocide. It's like if you are having a normal human reaction to genocide.
Yeah.
But I kept being like, I kept reading these things and seeing these things. It's like, you're not depressed. You're having a normal human reaction to genocide.
Yeah.
And I kept being like, oh, right. But it feels a lot like fucking depression. So what do I do?
Yeah.
Like, it's, I'm not depressed. This is a normal
No, it's
response
grief.
to a horrific thing
Grief.
that is largely out of my control. And I'm like, not diagnosing myself doesn't change
Yeah.
the experience of what my system is going
Yeah.
through, which is the
Yeah.
whole transpersonal thing. It's,
Yeah.
can we pause? Because we really have to pee.
Of course.
Okay, so what were we just saying?
Some big dramatic things about mental illness. I'll come back to that, but what we
Yeah.
wanted to go where we wanted to go now is what we started for transpersonal view of depression. So here's how I see it. I think of um it's I mean put simply, it is I think of depression as lack of access to vital force energy sources. So I see the body as having a source that goes up into the higher dimensional source, the realm of God or God of your heart, universe, but higher dimensional source of oneness and
Yeah.
access to power,
Mhm.
essentially energetic, bringing it on in.
Yes.
I also see there is a channel down into the earth so that you can access the vital force of physical planet, Mama Earth, and there's also a way of draining things that aren't working for you down into the earth. So I think of this channel as going through, and it's a big part of how we get energized. Depression to me would be that there is just the flow, the access to your energy, but your vital force is closed down in some way. Like I said, closed for business. So it's a somatic response. So I can imagine a situation where if somebody has a lot of forces that are really trying to get to them, a lot of people trying to plug into their energy, connecting from them, pulling from them, too much in their space. Like I see this as being the way that we want to be oriented, primarily vertically. A lot of times we get oriented horizontally. We're looking at friends, family. We're just connected. We're trying to draw power from other people or from a job or from something that is basically doesn't have much to give us energy wise. If you're basically not getting fed at all, it's like you starve to death
Yeah.
energetically. And it's so many reasons why that could happen, but that's how I see a depressed state as
Mm.
not having not the like the fire of our life and our heart isn't
Mhm.
isn't alive.
Yeah.
And that there's it's I don't think it's as easy as just being like, okay, open to source, because there's
Yeah.
of a lot that happens um in the field, and why you would want to close yourself down to God. I don't trust God. God is going to punish me. There's a lot of reasons why we could have been taught as a kid that we were going to be punished by God. We were hurt. Some really painful things happened to us, and the choice that our system made was like, I'm no longer like, I don't believe that there's anything. I'm closing myself down to receive anything because it's bad news.
Mhm.
And that's just one example, but I think that there's many different ways that people could become drained
Yeah. Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then to close themselves off for their own safety.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Sometimes it's like
I think that really it all comes back to, God, I'm starting with depression, but it all comes back to a disconnect to spirit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or anima.
Anima.
The breath of life.
The breath
vital
of life.
life force.
Life
vital
force.
life force. Like there's a disconnect between me and it. Like,
Yeah.
and organized religion is, I mean, I'm not saying that that's like a problem. People have a lot of healthy faith in
Mhm.
organized religion. But I do think organized religion gives very specific definitions of what
Yeah.
faith is supposed to be and the relationship you're in, what you have to give, and
Yeah.
it harnesses devotion in a way where the thing that we were listening to Josh say on this podcast was like a lot about ritual for the sake of
A ritual
ritual.
for feeding the deities.
Yes,
That was
for
cool.
just to give. Like
Yeah.
everything now in
Knowing.
mental health is, how can I take this to get better?
Yeah.
Like it's so me oriented.
Yeah.
And I think depression is so me oriented.
Mhm.
And from a transpersonal view, it feels almost like you have too much time to just obsess about yourself and what's wrong. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of things can
Disconnected.
activate.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of things can obviously activate a depressive episode, but I notice in myself if I have not enough engagement with life, like connection to spirit, connection to source, connection to my community, talking to strangers, being in nature, something that is engaging me in
Mhm.
life outside of myself and my ego. If I don't have enough of that,
Mhm.
I turn in on myself and I just spiral down into
Yeah.
the constant self analysis of the like problems.
Yeah.
And there's no problem. There is no
There's no
problem.
there.
The problem, there, the only thing that is incongruent is that humanity can't we can't naturally, organically experience humanity if we have to be in a relationship to a system because normalcy doesn't exist.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, we are all simultaneously co-creating this system and being victims of it.
Yeah.
Our belief in it reinforces it.
Yeah.
But we've been indoctrinated to believe in it.
Yeah.
It's a perpetuate. Like a it's a self-reinforcing system,
Yeah.
and we tend to, will, if you'll notice, like other people tend to reinforce it for each other. We're
Mm-hmm.
feeling that a lot with the decision not to get licensed, and how a lot of people who have a clinical license are typically the ones who are coming from a point of view of,
You should get
you should
licensed.
get licensed. Yeah. And that's this.
For people with
Yeah.
very like sort of minimal understanding of the process.
The thing that I want to say too, as you were saying, I said this morning to Avery, but this, as you were talking about, there is no problem. I want to also, yes, and that it reminds me of the thing, and I'm going
Mm-hmm.
back to kind of what I was saying about mental illness is just created. I was saying depression, so there's no problem, as in it's not wrong that your body has gone into a depressive state. That is a safety mechanism, and that is it. It's healthy. It is healthy, just like it would, just like actually throwing up if you ate something is a healthy mechanism. It's not fun,
Yeah.
but it's healthy because it's your body's way of getting something out. So that's what we mean when we say healthy, and that there's no problem. However, a depressed state is a very painful state, and I would argue that it's also not our it's not a representation of our true essence as beings. It is a reaction on this three, like it feels very three-dimensional to me. It's like shut down, too much in this world.
Mm.
So, like what I was saying to Avery earlier, it doesn't mean that like we're like go be depressed forever. No, when we are in a depressive episode, we have that inherent feeling like I don't want to be in this state.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to be in it. The sometimes we feel shame. I think that's what we would hope to alleviate by saying it's not a problem. But we don't. I think ultimately we know we're not meant to be in that depressed state. We know we're meant to have be able to be more open, to be connected, to be able to be in the flow and to like just be empowered and like have our source and to I think it's just that's our essence as beings. We're freaking dynamic, multidimensional, powerful energy sources. Like even if we're studying energy and on like a science level, our bodies have so much energy. It's like so much in our atoms. It's just our essence is to be vitally alive. And so that means that if you are in a depressive state, it's like, yeah, you probably want to return to what feels most aligned and true for you.
Yeah, it's a
And
mood,
yeah,
right?
it's just I just want to like just because I just want to clarify that's like there's not a problem, but it doesn't mean that there's not. It doesn't mean that you don't have somewhere still to go. Kind of like
Right.
it makes sense. There's a draw to leave that depressive
Yes.
state.
It sort of is like when we're saying there's no problem, what we're saying is that reaction makes sense
Yeah,
and is valid
yeah,
and doesn't need to get fixed. It's just a part of the experience
yeah,
of being human,
yeah.
which is all feelings, which is all emotions, which is all
Mhm.
moods, is to be through the
Yeah,
constantly changing cycle of life.
it's pushing you into a deep rest. I think
Yes.
Jim Carrey says that. Jim Carrey has a really good definition of depression. I've like seen it like it's like I've seen it around the internet where he says you you get tired of the character you're playing, so your body says enough of this, and it goes into deep
Wow.
rest.
Wow.
I love Jim Carrey. He
The
so
character
gets
you're
it.
playing. Because everything is in relationship to something outside of you.
Yeah,
Right. So if we were if we were feeling in an amazing, connected, aligned place, we are
hmm
connected to our source,
hmm
our belief system. We are connected to life around us. We are connected to ourselves and everything that we come into relationship with
hmm
in
in a
reality.
healthy way. Yeah,
Yeah,
in the way we want to be.
in a way that has an exchange of energy going back and forth,
Yeah,
not just
not just
a
from one
take.
direction.
Yes. Then I forget what I was saying. That's normal. You
Yeah,
can't we have to find another word, but that's life force. That is
yeah,
balance. That's
yeah,
how it exists.
yeah,
That is what the point.
yeah.
That is the point.
And whatever, and it's just it's there's so many structures and forms and shapes that our authentic empowered self can take. Our
Yes.
empowered self can be spend a lot of time with other people. Our empowered self can spend a lot of time alone. Our empowered self can be very loud and expressive and angry. Our like what did I say? Embodied, authentic,
Empowered.
empowered self can be quiet, restrained, patient. A lot of times our embodied self is all of those things. We tend to
Mm-hmm.
like I've been finding like I've
Mm-hmm.
just been getting like just more.
Yeah.
I spend a lot more time alone and then but I like it just it's a lot. So that's
It's meant to be
yeah, and
a
it's like
wider range.
yeah, and the feeling of empowerment, embodiment really it's a personal experience. So it's like you have to sort of it's about that's why it's like when we're working with people, it's like what is it true for you? Like it's like your state of embodiment and power is I can't tell you what it's going to look like.
Yeah.
You're going to know how it's going to like you're going to know when you feel it.
Yeah.
Like falling in love.
But I do want to, there's like a part, I'm having just this like urge to, you did say this, but I want to say it again
Yeah,
in like just sort of like earthly words,
great.
which is that like oppression is very real. the side effects of capitalism, the way society exists right now is very real. So like I take antidepressants because at some point I felt I needed to do so in order to be a functioning member of society because I was in such a relationship to society because I live in a city, I live in America, and I like there. So it's like every day I take this thing that alters a little bit of my expression so that I have an easier time in that system, which is if I didn't have to be in relationship to that system, I might not have to use that tool. But I do have to be in relationship to that system. So I have used that tool. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be forever. It might also be forever because it's sort of like once the world changes to be a certain way, we then adapt to that thing. So it's not, we're not saying that depression, like, you know, it's the thing, it's so valid that we have a system like Western psychotherapy. The problem, not the problem, I don't even know what words to use. It's like it got out of control and it took over, and it's an unnatural system that has taken over. It's not natural. It's not anima. It doesn't like
It doesn't
mirror
have vital force.
No, it doesn't
It's
have vital
all
force.
fake.
It's a one-way siphon.
All fake.
It's fake.
It's made up, so it's not giving us anything of value.
Yep. But we live by it.
But we all live in it.
Yep.
The thing that I think is the hardest thing to talk about when you're talking about pathology is shame. And it's just so, like we talk about, everyone's like, we're indoctrinated to say everything's our fault.
Yeah.
So when I understand how it's hard to say out loud, like, that we always have access to our own vital force because it's ours, because it's our nature, and that never is truly lost from us. It's the it is just the potency of the belief that it is not accessible to us. That
fear.
belief. So that belief was put inside of us.
Yes, not
but it's not the truth.
Yes.
But the belief is strong.
Yes.
So you have the power to overcome that belief.
Yes.
But it's not your fault you have it.
Yes.
Which means it's not your fault if you haven't, it's not your fault if you're still feeling that belief. Like, I think we just like, and so it's just hard to empower without also having the flip side of the coin, which is blame. Saying you have the power also is sort of saying because
it's your fault.
Because it's
right.
your fault.
Yeah.
And it's such a
It doesn't work like that.
It's so it like kind of works like that, but it's like they don't invalidate each other.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to say. And I think that that's why when you're experiencing something super painful, like a depressive episode, well, it's not, just so just debilitating as a depressive episode. No, you definitely don't want to hear. You can just get out of it.
Yeah.
Just change your brain.
Don't
just,
you realize you have the
like,
power? It's just a belief.
Like, I understand that is the thing that you don't want to fucking hear.
Well,
because
it
I've
also
been in it,
doesn't
and
make
I'm like,
sense because you do feel like it's out of your control
You
because
do.
your system has made a decision for you, but we are so out of alignment with understanding our systems because instead of being aligned with our system, which is natural, which is the same thing, it's the same thing. We're conditioned, like you said, it's not our fault. We're conditioned to be out of alignment with that and to be in alignment with this fake, made up thing.
Yes, the Matrix.
So we're confused when our system goes, shut down, doesn't work, and we're like, I don't know. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I don't know why I can't get off the couch. Something's wrong with me. I don't know. I can't get off the couch. Something's wrong with me.
I don't know. I don't know is huge. Yeah. Yeah. Because while the system has been implanting fake beliefs into our brain, it's been also disconnecting us from our own truth and what we know to be true.
Yes.
So
So it is
we have
that.
a series of full-grown adults whose entire sense of what they want and who they are is not based on their true, authentic, deep. Sitting up straight. Hey everyone, we took a break.
So
So
yes,
the last,
acknowledging.
the last thing
Acknowledging.
we were sort of saying, we can't remember exactly where we cut off, but it was the main point of what I was saying, I think, before we ended was about not not putting the blame on the individual for the state, and also trying to empower the individual to shift their experience.
Yeah.
And that's a tricky line.
Yeah. So let's talk about what you do with depression from a transpersonal, like getting out of depression,
Yeah.
or treating it, or dealing with it, or being with it. Like, what from a transpersonal lens would you do to not remain in that state of depression?
Yeah. Well, what I was feeling when I was thinking about this was how challenging it is, because once your body has entered what your body needs the rest.
Yeah.
So on as much as we're saying we need to start getting our vital source from like aligning vertically to energize ourselves. Once you've closed down for business, it's not as if you can just open up those channels. And so it's kind of like if you have a busy restaurant, you're just busy all the time, then all these little tasks aren't working. And then one day you just shut the restaurant down for a week and you finally deep clean things. I think it's sort of like trusting that what your body is experiencing, this deep need to just shut down, is healthy, and that it will end. And then I think it is, like I was saying, it's hard. It's so beautiful. Do you think they can hear the rain?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, it's wonderful. But essentially, like, because so it's like I think we have to move through the totality of the depressive state before we can do the work of adjusting adjusting our mechanics to run off of source instead of whatever it's trained to run off of now.
Yeah. So I would say there's like two part. There's when you're experiencing depression or you're in depression, rest. Rest with as little guilt as possible.
Anything you can do to shut your own shame and self hatred.
I should be feeling this. I'm a piece of shit. I can't even get off the couch. Like, which isn't an easy thing to to say, but rest with as little guilt.
Yeah.
Realize that your body is asking for rest.
And it's valid and it's asking for rest.
And you should rest.
And there's like where people will say, what is, you'll look outside and you'll say, other people are doing way more than I am, or something like that. That was always my thing. My storyline was always, look at that person is working twice as many hours as I am, and yet I'm feeling overwhelmed at this point.
And no comparison.
No comparison. Because you don't know what's happening in their system.
Right. Their system.
It's just different.
Probably isn't shut down the way your system shut down.
Yeah.
So part of it, the second part is recognizing, being a little bit more in tune with your system, so that you recognize the cues that your body is starting to get to the point where it can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
So like you were talking about, like, it's almost as if we're like we're in this barrel of energy and we don't know where the bottom is.
Yeah.
We're just like floating, and we're like, oh, look at this. We have all the energy, and slowly it's getting exhausted. And you don't realize till you hit the bottom of the barrel and you're done.
Yeah.
So it's like being a little bit more attuned to yourself to realize when you need to rest before you hit total
Yeah.
burnout breakdown.
Well, the other thing that I feel like I'm learning right now is to continue to feed myself even when it doesn't feel like I need it. Like you're saying about the barrel. This is like what happened to me when I went to the mainland. I got so sick because I was pulling from this barrel that I had spent months just filling to the brimmy brim here doing nothing. And so when I was finally had things to do, energy to extend, I was just like, oh my goodness. And it was just flowing out because there was so much that I had. And I was like, this is great. I don't feel bad. I don't feel sick. And then I hit the bottom because I was, and I didn't like, I think yes, there were totally signs. And there's also this thing of know that even if it doesn't feel emergent, you we still need the, to be feeding ourselves every day. So once you
Oh my gosh. Devotion.
devotion, just the it's so silly. I know it's I know that it's really really hard. But then the other thing, like on an energetic level, like I was saying, the vertical versus horizontal. A lot of times, if we're not getting sourced here, we're reaching out for sources. So we either can become very dependent or codependent on another person
Yes.
to feed us what we think we need, whether it be
Yes.
love or joy
You make
or
me
energy.
happy.
You make me happy. We can get attached to that person, and then that when like if that person isn't available to give to us, that's the deal. It's like then they
Chalk.
then it's hard, and then we can we can just
Get resentful.
and then it's just like if we can you just I don't know. We'll get resentful. I'm just thinking about other ways that we connect horizontally.
Yeah.
For power, and we think about we try to validate ourselves with kind of arbitrary things like workplace success or money. Those things don't feed us. It's fine to have them, like to use them. They're like tools, like you know what I mean. Sometimes our work can feed us.
Yeah, right relationship, mutual relationship.
If it puts you into a space where if you are able to stay connected to your source within your work, and the the actions of your work are aligned with your sense of power and your sense of like authenticity, then it feels very fulfilling.
Less like exhausting. Draining,
It feels
like work.
You're more aligned. When you're more at center. Because if you're just so off base trying to perform or trying to be something different, you're energetically over here in pretend land. You're not centered in your reality. You're not centered in the core parts of yourself.
Yeah.
Which is why
it's so interesting because I'm like, you're talking about me. You're talking about me. You're literally talking about me. Like I'm like everything horizontally is just plugged into me.
It's just plugged in.
As if I'm like a power source, the battery. That's what you said last night. And I'm like, I'm struggling here. Like I'm struggling to connect with my source and God, and like I'm having a hard time with my devotional practice, with faith, with all of it, with connecting to things that are nourishing for me or sourcing me, because everything that I've built myself in relationship to is like a horizontal, and honestly, like a lot of my relationships are built around others taking. And there's really only a few that, not that it should be, like this, but it is like,
like for people who are caretakers or helpers, or like that's their role. What happens is we say, like, we let people plug in to us because what then they give us is telling us we're valuable.
Yeah, that's how they start.
That's like, we basically make an agreement where I'll be like, I'll give you everything you ask for as long as you tell me that I'm worth something.
But
Well, I don't know. That's my story for sure.
Yeah, that is for you.
Yeah.
I mean, I do think
But
the
it's like,
validation.
yeah, but we like, there's a reason why we open the door too, because
Yeah.
it's not equitable. Like it's a lot of times we'll be like, okay, something about our worth says like, I'll take whatever you have to give, and I'll give you everything I have to give, which is a lot.
But sometimes I think about the people in my life as like, some are teachers and some are students.
Yeah, but I don't think I agree with that.
What do you feel? Everybody's a teacher and a student?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Duh.
You mean like you feel like some people are just taking more?
Some people,
or like it's their job to just take?
it's not a, well, yeah, I guess a teacher student is kind of like a role, job, occupation. What should I say instead of teacher student? Some people impart wisdom on me that help me to grow.
Yeah.
And some people are asking me to impart wisdom on them to help them grow. That's what I mean by student teacher role. Like everybody is a student and a teacher, right? Like a child can be your teacher.
Yeah.
But you're there to, like, whatever. It's both.
Yeah.
But that's not always, people aren't always on the same part of the
Well, this is I think wait, can I say something to that?
Yeah.
It reminds me of when I'm working with my therapist about the mask. So what the deal with the mask is not totally fake. What it is it's a default part of our personality that we get really positive feedback from. So then that's great. But then because we're getting positive feedback from it, sometimes we try to act like that when we're not feeling it. So what's probably happening for you is you're just tapping into your essence, which is as somebody who loves to share wisdom and who loves to
give,
who loves to give.
Yeah.
And that is a real part of you. And you are and when it's true, it feels great. The problem is that then there's sometimes you're pretending to be that way and it feels draining. Yeah. Because it's not true.
It's so hard when people call you and they're like, oh my God, to be like, no,
I can't be that person for you today.
Stop where you are. Yeah, I can't do that.
I just want you to know, like, I don't have the past capacity.
I don't have it in
right
me.
Now. Yeah, and that I like love that for you, and like I love that for me too because I think I have similar relationships, and it's like we should probably work on that.
I really need to work on it because I know when it's happening. They call me and they're
friends.
Like, yeah, I need this, and I'm like, feel it that I'm like, no, of course, go ahead, and it's like,
exactly. I feel
like stop.
I know. I feel like that's the deal because a true friend would be able to totally hear your truth that you don't have space.
There are some friends where I'm like, we'll check in. Do you have space to process something with me?
Yeah. Like, hey, do you have a minute?
Yeah.
Oh, I can't remember who it was. I think it was like Andrew Huberman maybe or something like that. No, it was the other guy. The other psych guy on the internet was like, it takes 8 minutes to regulate your nervous system. He was like, now me and my wife just text each other, do you have 8 minutes? When we need someone help regulate our nervous systems. Which I thought was cute. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think that's like reciprocity. And that's why you can end up feeling in these really unbalanced relationships.
You're right. That part of it's like we had this whole conversation before I got here. It's like, I have I'm out of integrity with how I'm actually feeling. So instead of being like, I'm burnt out, I want people to believe that I'm strong.
Yeah.
That's a big thing for me. It's a big part of like an ego that needs to be worked with. But it's like, I want you to perceive me. People perceive me as having my shit together because I want you to perceive me as having my shit together. Yeah. So then when I'm at a place where I'm like, I don't have my fucking shit together, it's really hard for me to be able to be like, I don't have my shit together.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'll be like, I'm just kind of like not doing well. That's how I say it. Or like, but I'm fine.
Yeah. Avery would be like, I'm just having kind of a hard time with my clients. So I feel like I'm not doing a great job. And it literally took me like until you had a one-on-one like convo for me to be like, Avery, like I just figured out that you're not doing well.
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, okay.
You were like, oh, you're like not okay.
Yeah. I was like, come to Hawaii.
Yeah, it was like, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me too because
Yeah.
it's like it is it.
It's a core part of your identity and your sense of self-worth to have your shit together and to
Be
be
of
healthy.
service to others.
Yeah.
And
you contain multitudes. You are selfless and selfish.
Yeah. But to get out or to get in connection breaks out of depression.
Yeah.
Well,
moving through and then
moving through
and then there's just a lot of factors, I think, for everybody, because you have to look at your own source of overwhelm and figure out where whether you need to make tangible physical changes, like dialing back your hours at your job or something, whether you need, or cutting off relationships with people who are really draining you, or whether you need to make mental shifts about the just around the amount of pressure or emphasis or like a story you have about what level you need to be performing at. That's a lot of stuff that happens internally too, and dismantling, like we were saying, the beliefs that all of these systems of beliefs that we have in our head about how much we need to be performing, like you were saying, how I need to be constantly giving, how I need to be constantly looking like I have my shit together. Me, it's perfection. Classic.
Yeah.
I'm just always trying to be perfect.
Yeah.
Which means every single project I take is just fast tracked to overwhelm. Right. Because I want to do it perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's my work, because the constant fast train to the constant perfectionism is what would just make me just be like, I can't do anything. I'm frozen. Yeah. And that was something that I had to, that's just like something I had to learn doesn't matter, even though like, and then consciously not, like consciously show up imperfectly in order to teach my body that it wasn't going to kill me.
Yep.
So everyone has their own process. So it's like
for me, rest is the big one.
Rest is huge.
It's like rest until you feel you can reconnect.
Across the board, the amount of time and effort that we put into living our lives is so much. Like, I would say we should all be doing a tenth of the shit that we're doing.
I know, and it's like, for who? For what? For who?
The stuff that we're doing. I know. It's the problem is we wrapped ourselves into tight cords of systems where we're like, oh, we have to pay bills and pay rent. I understand.
Yeah.
Like, there's
okay. So we decided that anxiety is going to be another episode because we just do one at a time.
Yeah.
It's a lot.
But I think we covered a lot about, and just in general, about why pathology isn't the best. Did you have anything more like transpersonally to look at depression?
Transpersonally, faith, connection, passion. It's like
I kind of gave my energetic alignment orientation. I just didn't know if you had
around
anything else.
What I think depression is, or how to get out of it.
What depression is?
Well, I think depression is it's a natural response, nature response.
Yeah.
I think everything in our system mirrors the organic life system.
Yeah.
So sort of what I was saying before, which is
like hibernation.
Yeah, it's It's like natural. I don't really know.
Great.
It's natural.
Totally.
It's just natural. It's normal and normal. It is,
Normal.
yeah. It's a part of life. It's a part of life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like we covered a lot. This is good.
Should
We're
we
at
do a
hour
little?
14.
Let's do a quick. What do we want to
Work on
mark on? I mean, hopefully we'll be able to record
more episodes.
more episodes while I'm here.
Yeah, but what are you working on?
I have to repair my relationship with God. Unfortunately, I blocked and deleted God, so we're working on that. But I unblocked her the other day, so yeah, I'm like starting to kind of feel like I can start to like repair and have a conversation, but I'm not quite there yet. But that's what I'm working on.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I'm working on. I think I am still just trying to be gracious with my own pace and myself. A lot of just in general, like a lot since the last time we recorded, I've been sick
Yeah.
and realizing a lot more of like the more chronic stress state that I had been in for so long. So I think that accepting my own, like accepting, like being gentle and gracious and kind to myself and my system and prioritizing coming back to up just a new state of yeah of resilience,
Hmm.
a new state of resilience.
Hmm.
After after this like really intense 4 years.
Persistent chronic stress
Yeah, I didn't.
survival mode.
Yeah. So it's like I've been saying I got through the acute traumas, but now I'm in sort of a more working on like the underlying kind of more chronic. So I just feel tired. I feel tired at this present moment. So just accepting that I'm doing just a little less than I wish I was, and that's okay.
Mm. Yeah.
Just the process, man.
No,
Surrender.
I can't.
Surrender
No more
to the
process.
soup. Ooh.
I don't know if we're even like ready to hear the part two of this episode, man. Like, not this episode.
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Normal
That was just a frozen in fear response. I don't even know.
Go listen to
Listen
the
to it.
Emerald
No,
podcast
that guy.
if you want your whole reality to
I was like, my
blown.
brain is melting. Okay. Okay. We good?